X, I need to talk to you about something and tell my story. I'm telling you right now, don't expect any sort of satisfying conclusion, barring a major breakthrough. Also, if updates come slowly, it's because I was told by my psychologist to take my time and get every detail I possibly can. There will be some parts written more for setup than anything else, and the green texted parts will be, quite literally, flashes taken from my memory. This whole ordeal takes quite a bit of concentration, so please bear with me. When I was 8 years old, I had a gap in my memory. This gap was a little over 12 hours and took place during a family weekend at our cabin in a state park. I could remember waking up in the cabin on our second day there early in the morning to go snowshoeing. Then I remember pulling into the driveway out of home later that night, with my family who were all dead silent and me feeling terrified. I had nightmares for 2 years that would wake me up, screaming. My sister did too. My parents were never mad at us. They were very understanding and never asked what the nightmares were about. I asked my sister about hers, and I knew in my gut that we both dreamt about the cabin and our final weekend there. That's all I could remember about them. They were about the cabin. I was running, and nothing else. It got to be too much for me after 2 years, having this gap, not remembering. I finally built up the courage to ask my dad, why don't we go to the cabin anymore? I remember the look on his face. The blood had completely drained from it. He looked horrified, then angry, then confused. He asked me, you don't remember? His voice was quiet, a whisper. I just shook my head, no. He looked relieved. He put a slightly scared-looking smile on his face and said, there was a fire and it burned down. It was pretty bad, and you were young and scared. Your brain must have hid the memory of it from you, so you wouldn't be scared anymore. My brain can do that? Yes, your brain can do some funny things. It's all to help you, though, so don't think about it anymore. Okay. That was it. It was my dad. There was no reason for him to lie to me, except about Santa Claus. Of course, I believed him, and I would have gone on believing him if I didn't overhear him that night. I had a TV in my room and a bedtime of 9 p.m. at the time. My sister, being 4 years older, would get to stay up a little bit later. One of my regular habits would be to watch TV after I went to bed by muting it and putting on the captions. So that night, I did the same thing. When my father thought I was asleep, I could overhear him talking to my mother and sister. I won't bother you with the whole conversation, just the important parts. He doesn't remember. Repressed, probably. I told him there was a fire and not to dwell on it. If he asks any more, tell him one of the lanterns got knocked over when we were setting it up for dinner. I didn't sleep that night. Hard to do so when your whole family is conspiring against you and you don't understand why. And at 10 years old, I was damn afraid to confront them again. The years went by. I did my best to forget that my family was lying to me. I really was too afraid to know what happened. The nightmares kept up, but I got better at dealing with them. I stopped waking up screaming by the time I turned 11. The year I entered high school, my grandma had a stroke and my mom retired to take care of her. State trooper for 20 years, my dad was one as well and retired at 28 years. Their careers are somewhat relevant later. I started falling into depression around then, actively thinking about killing myself. I didn't know why. I just didn't want to keep on going. My parents had guns, I knew where they were, quick and painless. I almost did it in sophomore year, but couldn't will myself to pull the trigger. I was 20 when I decided I had enough. My first girlfriend lasted 2 years, cheated on me, broke up with me, and I didn't see a reason to go on anymore. She knew about my past attempt and history of depression, only one I ever told to at that point, and got scared and called the cops on me. I was put in a psychiatric institute for a week and was put in touch with a psychologist to help me. By the time I met with my psychologist, I knew I wasn't a danger to myself anymore. I had decided that I just couldn't do that to my family. And it wasn't some medical professional who made me come to that decision, it was my uncle. He owns a vending company and stocks the machines. One of his clients was in the psych institute I was in. He pulled me aside at lunch and begged me to do what I had to get better. He told me how my dad informed him of what had happened to me, how he was sobbing uncontrollably, how until my dad got the words out, he was afraid his brother was telling him that he was sick and going to die. That got me. Not particularly relevant, but it's one of the most important moments in my life, and helps show why I made some of the decisions I made after. So I looked forward to seeing a psychologist. I wanted to figure out my problems and get better, so I would never think of putting my family through that again. The doctor was really nice, and I opened up to him immediately. We just sort of hit it off really well. Maybe it was my eagerness, maybe it was because I felt like he genuinely wanted to help. Probably both. For 7 sessions, 1 a week for 7 weeks, I talked about my life and childhood and everything and anything I thought might be relevant, and even the stuff I didn't think was. I answered his questions as best I could, and he sat and listened to me. It was in the 8th week that we finally touched on my dreams and the blocked memory of the cabin. I don't know why he waited so long. I had admitted I had trouble sleeping due to the nightmares almost all my life in my 3rd session, and there wasn't a follow-up until now. Maybe he was trying to get to know more about me and get me more comfortable with him before he broached it. But broach it he did. Let's talk about your nightmares. You've told me you've had them consistently since you were young. What were they about? I can't remember them ever, just little bits. I'm at our old cabin, I'm running, and I'm scared. Nothing else. I told you about our cabin, right? Yes. You said you spent a lot of time there when you were young. Sounded like you loved the place. Did something happen there? Yes. What happened? I don't know. I can't remember. My dad says there was a fire. You don't believe him? No, he lied. Why do you say that? It was then that I related to him everything you currently know. The lie my father told me, the argument between my family to keep up the lie, and of course the total block of what happened. A blocked memory of a cabin from childhood, nightmares since, family not telling me the truth for my own good, depression years later, and a suicide attempt. I was a psychologist's wet dream, and I knew it when I saw the doc's eyes, that he had written this up to one of 2 things. 1, I was molested. 2, I witnessed a murder. 3, both. Don't think it hadn't crossed my mind. I'd pretty much written that off as what happened, especially once I started unblocking the pieces of that memory and parts of it fit. The more I remembered, though, the more I realized that's not what happened. So don't go writing me off just yet. So this is when Doc and I get to work. He had me start keeping a dream journal, and I was writing as much as I could about the nightmares the second I woke up. We did meditations during the session and had me practice at home. He even took me to a friend of his who was a hypnotherapist, where I was told I wasn't susceptible to hypnotism, probably because I believe it's total bullshit. I threw myself at unblocking the memory with Doc's help. I was done running from it. I was done ignoring it. I told my family that I knew the fire story was a lie, but they still wouldn't tell me a goddamn thing. My father actually almost took me off therapy after that, which I knew was a risk, but I begged and pleaded him not to. He finally relented, but still wouldn't talk about that day. After the advice of Doc, I even revisited the cabin once. I went in the summer and during the day. It was a ruin and burnt to the ground. I'd gotten pieces of that day back by then, and I knew there was no fire. And I've made the assumption that my fire came back at some point and burned it. 4 fucking years. I did all this for 4 years and still am. I don't have all of the memory back, just pieces. I filled page after page, book after book, with details of my nightmares, repeated and repeated until finally something new would come out, and that would repeat and repeat and repeat until another new thing came up. In those same journals, I would sit and write as much as I can remember after each meditative session. Doc and I don't know what happened yet. Not the whole story. We're still piecing it together. I brought up sharing the details with you guys and seeing what you thought. He was initially against it because he didn't want your judgments and theories to cloud my own memories. After a while, though, he agreed to it on the condition that I don't jump on whatever you guys say. I reassured him that I have done too much work to buy into whatever explanation a group of anonymous people come up with. So here it goes. Everything I remember as accurately as I possibly can. It's morning. I wake up. My parents are asleep in their bed, and my sister is in her sleeping bag next to me. I put on my snowsuit and my snowshoes. I go outside for a walk through the woods. The sun is shining bright off the pure white snow. I get walking. There's a clean smell of cold, crisp air crunching of snow beneath my feet. I stick to the trail, not too far. I reach a tree with a blue marker nailed into it. I go off the trail to the right. There's a copse of trees, a little snow fort, and I built. I go inside the snow fort. Add little things to it. Fridge and storage areas. I make beds a little nicer and smoother. Good work. Start making snowballs to pelt my sister with. Felt the cold snow beneath my now ungloved fingers. I carefully craft the perfect snow spheres. Wrong. Wrong. Something feels wrong. Bad smell. Rotting animal? Snow crunch. Maybe it's my sister. Snow crunch again. Noise not coming from direction of trailer cabin. Crunch. Smell gets worse. Dead, silent. No animals. Nothing. Smell. Crunch. Crawl out of the snow fort. Crunch. Silence. Laugh. It's not me. It's not a laugh, but it sounds like a laugh. I can't breathe. The smell's worse. Smell. Crunch. Behind me. Turn. Laugh. No, it's not a laugh. It's not me. Paralyzed. Horror. I can't see it right in front of me. I don't want to see it. Blank. 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 Running. Branches are hitting me, cutting my cheek. Fingers are ice cold, numb. Crunch. Not a laugh. It's not me. The smell. Behind me is scream, running. Cabin. I'm crying, screaming, and running. Cabin door opens. My parents run out. Sister too. They grab me and hold me. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? I can't talk. I'm crying. I'm crying. I laugh. There's a laugh. It's not a laugh. It's from behind me. The snow crunches. Parents, sister look up and scream. Blank. Blank. Screaming. Yelling. I'm inside the cabin now. 2 laughs. They're not laughs. They're outside. Something bangs on the door. Bang. Bang. There's a smell is still surrounding me. Laugh. It's not a laugh. Screaming. Parents. Guns. Click. Click. The safety's off. Dad. Fuck. What the fuck? Get away. Warping. Shoot you. Fuck. Fuck. Mom. Tearing. Shouting. Can't hear. Sisters. Screaming. Me. Numb. Numb. It's not a laugh. Smell. Banging. Blank. 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 Outside. Running. Gunshots. Bang. 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 Screaming. Not us. Gunpowder smell. Bad smell. Angry. Screaming. Not us. Car doors open. We're in the car. Driving away fast. Parents, sister, me. Screaming. Crying. Yelling. I don't want to look. I have to look. I see the cabin. There's a figure. It's a person. It's not a person. There were 2 figures, 2 persons, not persons. 1 gunshot, driving, I'm paralyzed. I smell less, angry screaming less, not us. Blank. So that's my story, X. From what I can tell, there was one at first, then another must have shown up, either before or after we made it to the cabin. I think my parents managed to kill one of them, or at least seriously injured it since I only saw one when we were driving away, and it sounded angry. I can't remember what they looked like exactly, other than they looked like people, but weren't. The exact features are lost in the blanks. They weren't people, I know that. If we were attacked by people, my parents wouldn't have been so goddamn scared. And they're both very distinguished and respectable police officers who retired with the respect of everyone they worked with. If someone attacked us, they would have reported it. Even if they killed one of them, it was self-defense. I don't know what the fuck they were. I'm still trying to remember, but I don't know if I ever will. There were 2 laughs outside the cabin. Sorry if I didn't make the distinction that there were different laughs instead of one that repeated twice. I can remember seeing 2 at some point as well, but I don't really recall when. The blanks make it tough. Maybe when my parents were shooting them? I don't know. If I ever get more of the blanks, I'll come back here to update. Though since it took 4 years to get that much, I wouldn't expect an update for a while. Don't think I haven't thought about a second confrontation. The doc's been encouraging it now that I know more. It's just the way they looked when I told them I knew there was no fire. I think they've been trying to forget as much as I'm trying to remember. I've already hurt them once and I don't want to hurt them again. He told me I should get the 4 of us in a room together and then just lay out everything I know and watch their reactions. From there, I might be able to get them to fill in the blanks, that they were there for at least. He argues that they might just pick it up and fill them in without even thinking about it. And if they clam up, then maybe look at questioning them one at a time. Also, remember when I mentioned the blue marker nailed to the tree? Red markers marked the trail. The blue one was put up by my dad to mark the furthest point on the trail my sister and I were allowed to go without our parents. The snow fort wasn't far off the trail, and was clearly visible from it, and both knew about it. If and when I confront them again, I plan on opening with me having gone back there. I did it before, and I know as much as I do now. If I knew as much as I did, I definitely wouldn't have gone there alone and unarmed. Going there did help remove a block or 2, though. I think whatever had tried to attack me was trying to break in. There was one window to let light into the cabin. Something happened with the window during the encounter. I didn't mention it because I don't have enough of the block removed to know what had happened, other than the fact that something did. The doctor says making assumptions is bad because it can cloud the actual memory, but I'm assuming at one point one of them broke in through it. Or maybe we climbed out of it. I don't know. After responding to a number of different questions about his story, OP eventually responded to this particular post, in which an Anon questioned if the creature that he saw resembled the creature found in this screenshot from an Aphex Twin music video. OP responded with this: "I don't know whether to hate you or to thank you for this. The mouth. That fucking mouth. It smiled at me. It fucking smiled at me. In the video, when it was screaming at the lady, the shape of the mouth, the teeth, it's hitting something. I can see it smiling. I can see it screaming. Fuck, why can't I see past the mouth? There's something there on the edge of it." After calling his doctor to let him know about the recent developments, OP returned with this: "I just called Doc after hitting on the mouth, and he helped calm me down and guide me through it. If the recollection is especially strong as this one, I freak out and can't deal with it on my own. I was able to see the mouth clearly, and now after Doc's help, I was able to see what was on the edge of it. The lips. The lips were blood red. Damn, I knew going to you guys was a good idea." Someone eventually questioned OP about any memories he had of the teeth, to which he responded, "Not much of. I mean, how can there be in so short time? I worked for 16 hours yesterday, went home, slept for about 5 hours, and now I'm back at work for 8. The breakthrough I had last night with remembering the mouth. I saw it in my dreams last night. I was able to see the teeth and remember them when I woke up. Despite the other guy not being me, he was kind of right. They were like shark's teeth. They were sharp and in rows. 4 to 6 rows? Something like that. Unlike a shark, they were clean. Eerily clean. Just pure white like snow. And they were all perfectly positioned. Not a single one was crooked or missing. They were perfect teeth." OP continued in a second post: "I just want to add that I know the model of the guns, not from this memory, but because I've seen and held them at other points in my life. I can't tell you who fired, what they look like while firing, or anything like that. It's just lost to me. Doc's tried that approach before. I can tell you the number of gunshots, though. There are points in my memory where I can't see anything, but I can hear. And other times I can't really hear anything, it's distorted, but I can see. And then there are times when everything is blank, and times when everything is distorted. Loud noise, don't know what. Gunshot, 5 times. 2 sounds from the left, 3 from the right." Pause. After this, OP went on a hiatus, only to come back the next day with an update. He continues: "I'm back. I promised an update. Here it is. I confronted my family. We talked. I remember everything, and wish I could go back to forgetting. That's it. Sorry, guys." Will you tell us about it, or is it too much for you? It's hard. The thing is that my family has been dealing with events of that day and the things they saw for the last 16 years. They still had real trouble even forming words to describe things. It's all new to me, and I can't touch too close to certain parts without, well, dissolving into a mess. These creatures, when you look into their eyes, you saw things. Things you can't imagine, don't want to imagine. Things you can't. Just can't. I can't. After some Anons asked for OP to elaborate, he continued: "I went into the forest. I was at the snow fort when the smell hit me. I could hear something moving. I went outside the fort, looked, and there it was, not 5 feet from me. It was smiling at me, red lips and lots of sharp pointed teeth. Its skin was dark, not black, just dark. The eyes were green. I fell back, startled. That's when I looked into its eyes. I went into some sort of trance state and saw things. Horrible, evil, awful things. When I hit the ground, the trance broke. I wasn't following for 5 seconds, but it felt like I was in that trance for years. I don't think I realized that I had come out of the trance. I got up and ran back to that cabin. It laughed that fucking laugh and chased me. Remember how I said I cut my cheeks on the branch? That wasn't it. A second one of those things was waiting on the trail. I ran past it and it made a casual grab for me. The fingers on the hand were like knives and split the skin on my cheek so easily. I reached the cabin. My family was outside. They were asking me what was wrong when they saw those things come out of the trees. My dad picked up my sister and I with one arm each and ran into the cabin. He slammed the door shut and locked it, and he and my mom got their guns out. They were scared as my sister and I were. They had no idea what the fuck those things were. We could hear them outside, laughing and banging on the door. They each put a few rounds through the door, and still that fucking laughter was there. Still, the door was banging. No one noticed it wasn't banging as hard or as fast as before. That was when the window shattered from behind us. One of them had gone around the back and broken through it, while the other had us distracted at the door. It slipped in. I don't know how else to describe it. It moved like a snake made of smoke. The fucking thing laughed, and the one outside laughed. My parents said they looked into its eyes and they went into the trance like I did. While they were frozen, the other came around and slipped through the window as well. The one caught my sister's gaze and she was lost. They didn't seem to need to keep eye contact to hold the trance. It was just one look and it was done. Both of them were now moving toward us, while trying to catch my eye, but I wouldn't let them. I didn't want to go back and see that again. They didn't move fast now. It was like they knew it was over and there was no need to hurry. I remember how falling had jolted me up, so I shoved my dad as hard as I could from behind and he fell forward onto his knees. That was enough. He shouted at me to get the door as he grabbed my mom and my sister. The gentlest shove broke them out and we were running out to the car. The creatures were moving faster now and came after us. They were still doing that laugh, right up until my dad turned around and shot one of them. He shot 3 times and I turned my head back to see one of them go down. The one that was still standing looked angry and screamed so horribly it made their laugh seem natural. We managed to get into the car and my dad just floored it. I looked back and the thing was still standing next to its fallen brethren, and still it screamed as we drove away. And that's how it ended. That's what happened. I won't go into any more detail than I did. It was hard enough to write what I got out. Thanks for listening. After another set of follow-up questions, OP eventually clarified, relating that whatever these things were, they were not skinwalkers. They looked humanoid, they had skin, but it was weird. There were instances like when they came through the window where they were like smoke. Their heads were always there and always solid, but the rest of them changed. The head was humanoid. There was a thin face, sharp features, a large mouth, sharp teeth, and red lips. Oval-shaped eyes, pale green. No ears that I saw. Bald. A few hours later in the same thread, an Anon created a number of different composite sketches based upon the description that OP had given. OP eventually responded. The first set of eyes is the closest. Get rid of the pupils, though. First head is closest, but change the nose to just 2 horizontal slits. Hands, none of them. It was like the arms ended in a series of 4 thin blades. Long. Finally, another Anon made a sketch of the head given this new description. OP responded with, "Skin and eyes are the wrong color. Put the mouth into a smile." That's pretty damn close otherwise. After some more Anon inquiry about greater detail in the story, OP eventually left the thread. No new information has since been provided by the original OP. Now, 3 years after the original story was posted, its contents and the man himself both remain a mystery.